Imagine you're running a major company, okay? And it's time to decide what financial info to release to the public. You probably focus on your company's performance, right? Your numbers, your outlook. But what if the decision of what to share and when to share it is really heavily influenced not just by your own results, but by the reputation of the specific financial analysts who are listening, watching, and reporting on you?
It's a fascinating angle.
Yeah. Today, we're taking a deep dive into exactly that sort of hidden strategic dance between corporate voluntary disclosures. We're talking specifically about what companies often call management earnings forecasts, or MEFs, and the pretty significant impact of the reputation of individual financial analysts. Our mission here is to really pull back the curtain, uncover how the professional standing of these influential market gatekeepers actually shapes what companies choose to tell us, and maybe why.
That's right. And for this deep dive, we're grounding ourselves in some really solid academic work. It's a paper by Jae B, Yongtae Kim, and Joonho Lee, published back in 2021 in the Journal of Accounting and Public Policy.
Okay.
And their research, it's incredibly thorough. They looked at data from over 88,000 firm quarters.
Oh, it's a lot.
Yeah, between 2001 and 2010. They really wanted to untangle this complex relationship, looking, beyond just simple correlation to figure out the actual causal links.
Okay, let's unpack this then, because the first big finding is, well, it's quite striking. The study found that firms are significantly more likely to issue these quarterly MEFs when they're covered by what are known as All-American Analysts, or AA analysts.
Right, the top tier.
Exactly. For anyone maybe not familiar, these are the absolute cream of the crop, most respected analysts, ranked every year by Institutional Investor magazine, the real pros. And the research shows that just having AA analyst coverage, it's associated with a 5.8% increase in the likelihood of a firm issuing an MEF compared to the average. That feels like a noticeable bump, doesn't it? What's driving that?
It's definitely more than just a bump. It's a clear signal. And you're right, it's not just random. The research points to basically two core reasons why a firm would feel, let's say, more inclined to disclose when these really prestigious analysts are watching closely.
Okay.
First, there's this idea of increased market information. Analysts, they're known for just being better at forecasting. Earlier studies showed this pretty clearly. These top analysts consistently make more accurate predictions.
Right.
Plus, they often work for the bigger, resource-rich brokerage firms, so they have access to tons of data, great research teams. When these really informed people follow a company, it just increases the odds that the market investors, traders, other analysts will be well-informed too.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that, in turn, kind of incentivizes managers to provide more voluntary disclosure.
Yeah.
Because their message, their side of the story, it gets understood better, spread more efficiently, and, trusted more.
Got it. And the second reason?
The second is efficient expectation management. AA analysts are just incredibly influential. Their forecasts carry more weight. They tend to move stock prices more. Other studies have shown this pretty consistently. So if managers want to effectively adjust what the market expects, maybe set more realistic earnings targets, or manage feelings around upcoming news well, issuing an MEF becomes a much more efficient, high-impact strategy when these influential analysts are the ones getting and spreading that information. They're hitting the right audience using the best channel.
So companies are basically using these top analysts as like their preferred communication channel. It really shows that corporate transparency isn't just about sharing facts. It's a strategic choice, picking the most credible, influential path to make sure your message actually lands and gets understood. I mean, think about it. If you want your message heard and acted on, wouldn't you want to use the most credible, far-reaching channel you could find? That's what firms are doing here, choosing to talk more when the people with the biggest megaphone and the most attentive audience are listening. It's about maximizing impact. But okay, the plot thickens, right? It's not just that these top analysts are there,
Right.
but what their initial predictions are. This is where it gets really interesting. The study finds that when these AA analysts' early forecasts are more optimistic, like they're predicting really great things, maybe better than management feels comfortable with.
Right. Setting a high bar.
Exactly. The managers are even more likely to issue MEFs. And this effect is way stronger than if just regular non-AA analysts are being optimistic. To put a number on it, a 1 standard deviation increase in AA analyst optimism. It's linked to a huge 13.9% increase in the likelihood of an MEF. So it's not just being watched, it's being watched with high expectations that really triggers the response.
Precisely. And this really shines a light on that core concept, expectations management. Managers feel this really strong pressure to meet or beat analyst expectations. We know this. Missing those targets, especially the ones set by influential analysts, often leads to, pretty bad stock price reactions when earnings come in.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
Right. So when the most influential analysts, the AAAs, start out overly optimistic, managers are way more likely to jump in with their own forecast. And the goal, usually it's to strategically guide down those market expectations, bring them to a level that's more achievable, maybe even beatable.
Setting a lower benchmark.
Exactly. They're proactively trying to set a more realistic bar, ensuring they can deliver what looks like good news later on. And what's really compelling is that the study backs this up with what happened after. They found market reactions at earnings time are indeed more positive when firms meet or beat those AA forecasts.
Okay.
But, and this is key, there's an extra negative hit if they miss those specific AA analyst forecasts.
So the stakes are higher with AA analysts.
Definitely higher, which confirms that meeting or beating their forecasts matters more. And that strongly motivates managers to adjust expectations beforehand. This isn't just disclosure, it's, like you said, proactive expectation management. Strategically under-promising to the big names so you can over-deliver later.
This really is a peek behind the curtain. Companies aren't just reacting to numbers, they're actively shaping the story. And they're specifically targeting the most impactful voices, the AA analysts, to set themselves a more favorable benchmark. It's a very calculated game.
It's a sophisticated communication strategy, absolutely.
So if they're playing this expectations game, does that reputation influence not just if they issue a forecast, but like how it's written, the actual content, the tone?
Yes, it goes much deeper than just the to disclose or not disclose decision. The research shows that the analyst's reputation also significantly shapes various properties of the MEFs themselves. It reveals an even more nuanced strategy.
Okay, like what?
Well, for instance, when those AA analysts start out optimistic, the actual news in the management forecast tends to be more negative.
Directly countering the optimism.
Exactly. It fits perfectly with that strategy of guiding expectations down. Management's forecast becomes the counter-narrative. And similarly, the bias in the MEFs becomes more pessimistic when AA analysts are optimistic. Managers are intentionally setting that lower, more beatable bar, signaling caution to temper the market's excitement.
Okay, pessimistic bias. Makes sense. What else?
It also affects updates. Managers are more likely to revise earlier MEFs if AA analysts' forecasts are particularly optimistic.
So they keep nudging it down.
It suggests an ongoing effort, an adaptive process to deflate those initial high hopes. And again, this tendency is much stronger when it's the AA analysts they're responding to compared to others.
Wow. So this reveals a really dynamic, almost conversational approach to disclosure. It's not just one announcement. Firms are actively managing course-correcting expectations through this strategic communication, especially with their most important watchers.
It's a continuous dance, you could say. A responsive dialogue aimed at shaping perception over time.
It really makes you realize how much thought goes into every piece of information companies release. Now, this all sounds incredibly compelling, but I guess the big question is, which came first? Do reputable analysts just naturally gravitate towards companies that are already transparent, or do companies actually become more transparent because these reputable analysts are watching?
Right, the causality question.
Yeah, that's what researchers call the endogeneity challenge, isn't that a classic chicken and egg problem? How do they sort that out? How do we know the reputation causes the disclosure change?
That's a critical point, and honestly, the researchers did a really good job tackling this. They used two pretty clever approaches to try and establish causality, and not just correlation.
Okay.
First, they looked at analyst coverage changes. They basically watched what happened when an AA analyst started covering a company they hadn't before.
Initiated coverage, right?
Exactly. Or when an AA analyst stopped covering a company. And the pattern was really clear. Managers were significantly more likely to issue MEFs when an AA analyst started covering them. And conversely, less likely when an AA analyst dropped coverage. That gives a strong directional clue.
Okay, that helps. What was the second approach?
The second one was, I think, even more powerful. They used what's called a quasi-natural experiment by looking at analyst status changes.
How does that work?
This is really ingenious. They found cases where the very same analyst kept covering the same firm, but that analyst's personal status changed. So an analyst who'd been covering, say, TechCore for years suddenly achieved AA status in the institutional investor rankings. Or maybe, though less common, they lost it.
So the firm's coverage didn't change. The analyst didn't change. Just their reputation badge,
Yeah.
basically.
Precisely. And here's the kicker. When an analyst who was already covering a firm gained that prestigious AA status, the firm became significantly more likely to issue MES. Because nothing else fundamental changed about the coverage relationship, just the analyst's recognized reputation. It provides really compelling evidence that it's the analyst's reputation itself that influences the firm's disclosure decision.
Wow, that is powerful. It isolates the reputation effect.
Yeah, it strongly suggests causation, not just correlation.
That really drives the point home then. This isn't just some abstract finding. It's about the real, tangible influence an individual's professional standing has on corporate behavior. It's like the market's most respected voices actually command a higher level of communication from companies. The reputation of these gatekeepers directly shapes the information that you as an investor or just someone interested actually get to see. Makes you think about who's listening.
And it's worth pointing out, too, that these findings weren't just tied only to that specific All-American ranking. The study ran robustness tests, checking if the same patterns held when they defined reputable analysts using other measures.
Oh, like what?
Things like their general experience, the size or prestige of the brokerage firm they work for, or even just their track record of past forecast accuracy.
And did the results hold up?
They did. Similar patterns emerged. It suggests there's a broader principle here. Analyst quality, influence, reputation, however you measure it. It seems to be a consistent driver of how companies approach disclosure. It's about credibility and reach.
So this deep dive into analyst reputation and management forecasts, it gives us a lot to chew on. It really kind of reshapes how we might think about corporate disclosure, doesn't it? It's clearly not just an internal decision based on performance.
Not at all. It's very much a strategic response to the market's key influencers. It's a sophisticated dance between management and the people shaping public perception.
A dance. I like that.
Yeah. Companies aren't just, dumping facts out there. They're engaging in this nuanced, dynamic dialogue, especially with those who really shape market expectations and, ultimately, how investors behave. Understanding this helps us see financial reporting not just as a presentation of facts, but often as a strategic act of communication, designed to manage perceptions, set the stage.
And the credibility of who's receiving the message profoundly impacts the message itself.
Exactly. The messenger matters, but here, the recipient's reputation matters just as much, if not more, for the communication strategy.
Indeed. It's a game of influence and perception. And these analysts, they are far from passive observers in all this. So maybe a final thought for you, our listener. Consider how this strategic interaction, this dance between management and influential analysts, how might that impact things beyond just short-term stock prices? Think about longer-term investor views, maybe even how capital gets allocated across different businesses, and what responsibilities come with that. For the analysts, holding that much market influence, and for the firms, wielding that disclosure power. What roles do they both play in shaping the financial narrative in this really complex strategic landscape? It goes way beyond just the numbers, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It touches the very architecture of how information flows and gets understood in our markets.